So the election of principal officers who lead the 10th National Assembly is over. Today we'll be talking and taking a look at the 10th National Assembly legislative agenda of the APC-led administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which is geared towards renewed hope for a better and greater Nigeria. We have in the studio Dr. Dakpo Otitoju, who is a constitutional lawyer and an electoral law expert. He would also be joined somewhere in between the show by Honorable Sadiq Abubakar, a public affairs commentator. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
I was joking with you when you came on set that I used to think constitutional lawyers are very big. So I used to imagine you would need a bigger body frame to, to contain.
We are all want to be alive to enjoy some good things.
So the big frame is a problem in a way.
We are also doing the exercise on our body.
Interesting.
Right. Thank you.
Welcome again on set.
Thank you very much.
The elections of the principal officers have been concluded.
Yes.
And as the president would say, we are now on to the business of nation building. But to start with, whilst it appears that this election was a smooth one, I mean, when you just oppose with what happened in the days of Saraki, some other Nigerians are a bit worried. Worried about what appears to be the bromance between the National Assembly and the presidency, and how they think that will rub off on separation of power and on its ability to effectively carry out its role of checks and balances. I mean, Nigerians will still remember how that kind of relationship between the outgone Senate President Ahmed and President Buhari sort of saw our debt profile balloon into something trillion. Well, do we have a reason to be worried?
Absolutely, I don't believe that we should be worried at all. Why? Because if you look at this composition, it's a fantastic one. This is the first time in Nigeria we'll be having leaders who are determined, one way or the other, to ensure that we get out of the ruins that we have found ourselves in the past. Now, if you look at the system, when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, came in as president-elect, he was consulting with the parliamentary
senators-elect.
The senators-elect, the members-elect, he was consulting. He was not doing it alone. He was also doing it in conjunction with the party members, the ESCOs, you know. And it is not that when you have fraternity with the parliament that you will not have, they will not be able to assert their authorities. No. It is when you have a ethnic correlation of what you want to engender for the people. Now, if you look at the past, number one, democracy is growing. So you can see the display of democracy now. Two, we are not reduced to ethnic sentiment in the house. And that is why you will see a different government. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is from Southwest. The president of the Senate today is South-South. The speaker is from North. So you cannot say that there's any ethnic undertone.
Right. Okay. On that particular note, which I think most people would disagree with you on, is the fact that before the elections, took place, and before the APC even zoned it to the South Side and decided to specifically pick Akpabio as the chosen one for the party going into this, when you had the likes of Ojuzo Kalu, for instance,
yes,
and a lot of Nigerians thought, since the Igbo presidency didn't happen with the APC, neither did it happen with Peter Obi during the election, the perfect compensation for the Southeast and for the Igbos to douse the tension of these Biafra agitations would be to have the next Senate president come from that extraction. And when that didn't happen to date, people are still talking about how the Igbos have been changed. So the ethnic conversation is still going to pretty much dominate conversations for a while.
The question will now be that what part is Igbo? Not west, south, east. That is the division of the geographical spread in the world. Now, the Igbo part of Nigeria are from southeast, right? Over the period of time, they have been presidents of Senate. The South have never emerged in our 24 years of democracy. So, if we decide to take it to their South, their brothers, I mean, is anything bad about that? And apart from that, the party made it clear that it is the region that gives the presidency that they will compensate. We have had over 5 Senate presidents from the Southeast in the past in this country, starting from
Chubo
Kadibo, Evans Ewerem, these are Adolphus Wagbara, and
Pius Ayim.
We have had. So if we have a South-South person this time around, this is not bad. It is within the same parameter of the zone. It is South. And that is what I want us to understand. Now, where I'm going in terms of whether we have a good leadership is the fact that we have chosen a very good a leader in the Senate. This is the first time we see a lawyer assuming that position as a Senate president. A practitioner before. Akpabio used to be a practitioner. And I can tell you...
A long time ago.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And then I'm going to tell you today that you are going to see a different parliament in Nigeria.
What inspires that confidence? What in Akpabio's track record?
Is it the solidarity of the lawyer?
Exactly.
It's not the solidarity of the lawyer. You see, let me tell you something. If you want to see a system work, you look out for people of track records. Akpabio has practiced law before we know it in Kaduna. Akpabio was a former governor, 2-time former governor, was a senator, now 2-time. By the Special Grace of God, he was a minister. The experience this man have gathered over the years is enough to be confident in the fact that all those places he had mounted, you can go back there and see, Uyo has been transformed. It is not this present government that transformed. He is Akpabio. He made a state to attract you. I have been to Uyo before his ascension as governor, and I have been to Uyo when he was there, and after that. Today, you cannot go to Uyo and not talk about what Akpabio have done. Now, let us look at his track records too. In the Senate, he was there, he represented his people. Before now, he displayed his professionalism. Because the first thing I tell him, you were a lawyer first before you become a politician.
Yeah, but Dr. Otitoju, one of the pushback that Akpabio got during his candidacy for this particular election was the fact that he made some remarks that most of his colleagues right now in the Senate still remember, disparage them, calling them corrupt. This is the same institution that this man is now trying to lead. I mean, there is in principle a sort of a morality question around how can you lead people who you think are corrupt, whom you have on record actually disparaged. The institution itself, you've disparaged long before now. So how do you square that? I mean, I understand that by lawyer, by profession, he is a square peg in a square hole. But what about some of those track records where Nigerians begin to dig up, the things that he has said about the National Assembly and about senators today who he is going to lead?
Yes. Well, everybody is entitled to his opinion when it comes to issues of corruption. Now, he has addressed that as at when he was there. And even the institution acknowledged the fact that there was a time in the Senate that the rules and whatever that brought about the leadership was doctored. I won't say forged here, was doctored. Now, if you say the Senates are corrupt, that is individual differences. That's his expression. He must have said something for him to say that this individual, not the institution this time around, I beg to differ. It is not the institution, it is an individual. Because the institution will remain till eternity, even when you are no more there as a senator. But the individual who are senators, there are some credible senators, and there are some corrupt senators. We can't take that away. And that shows the mirror of the society. We cannot say that because he has said that in the past, due to certain acts that made him to come to that conclusion, I'm very sure you cannot now say because of that he cannot lead the institution. I think it will be better for him to even lead the institution and make a better senator. And mind you, sir, that institution is very incorruptible. But the person who occupies the office could be corrupt. You understand? So I think we should try to...
Okay. Moving on to... You said quite a number of things that are instructive in your opening statements, and I would like us to expand that thought process, which is that we are going to see a robust National Assembly, judging from the
leadership,
the leadership and the track record of Akpabio himself.
Yes.
But in your own imagination, how would this really be different? I mean, it would take the entire 109 senator, gravitating towards the same place for you to have the kind of effect that you need. And we can't obviously say everybody came there with the same notion. How can we make this National Assembly different? And by being different, not necessarily being rubber stamps.
Yes. Now, the first task, which I believe should be their concern now, is the hurriedly signed bills that became act for the last dispensation, particularly the NDIC Act, which was signed lastly. He did not observe all the legislative bill that was accorded to it to become an act. Now, it is their own responsibility now to bring back those acts, those bills which have become act, bring back those acts and review. And sir, it is important to note that every individual have come to become members of Senate, members of Reps for the development of Nigeria. So anyone who is not ready to advance the cause of the government, we will see them, we will hear their debates.
But beyond the review, because you've raised a very important issue.
Yes.
Because I also watched that video from the current chairman of the NDIC.
Exactly.
And for me, it appears to be an indictment in the entire process, because how do you pass a document and what is transmitted to the president
is different.
It's completely different. What happens, because you are a constitutional lawyer, you are an expert in this area. What exactly happened between what is passed and how it gets transmitted? That's one. Two, the president has a National Assembly liaison. The president has the benefit of the Attorney General. And in the Attorney General's office, all kinds of experts exist who are supposed to scrutinize this bill, look for where there are overlapping provisions with, or contradictory provisions with Constitution, and advise the president, because we've seen him return bills for amendments before he signs the amendment. What exactly happened? What kind of fraud do you think really took place?
That fraud cannot be explained by anybody outside the government.
So why is the National Assembly not speaking to this fraud?
That is exactly what I'm trying to say, that the system now must revisit this bill and ensure that what is passed as act, it can be responded and repealed by them. Now, it is not just that bill. If you check the financial bill, the financial act, the chapter, Section 5 is completely expunged. The president signed that one April 2028 and backdated it. I've never seen a retrospective law in finance. You now ask that the finance bill should be retrospective, and you sign it on the 28th. So, and then the Section 5 is completely off. So all these bills are already passed due to the fact that they know that the president may not be in right frame to sit and look at it. And then the Attorney General too is also on his way. He might not also sit to view all these things. So I believe that it is from that transmission to the presidency that these things was obliviated.
Okay. A lot of people have always said that the law is a work in progress.
Yes.
I mean, you have one law today, it's perfect for today. Tomorrow, you're going to feel different.
Yes.
And based on the circumstances, you might want to amend.
Yes.
And that's basically the duty of the National Assembly,
Yes.
to make laws, amend them. So there's always room to
Yes.
correct some of these issues.
Yes.
But one particular issue that most Nigerians are eager to see with regards to expectations about the 10th Assembly is the idea of restructuring the country, constitutional review, constitutional amendments. There are certain key issues. State policing, for instance, to address the recurring endemic insecurity across the country. And Mr. Apabio did mention that in his inaugural speech, where he's talked about resource management and how much more the states need to do to unlock these potentials so that jobs can be created and the economy rebounds.
Yes.
Your 2 cents on how difficult of a task that can be, because many have tried in the past and have failed, to be fair.
Now, the development of Nigeria rests on the shoulders of everybody, meaning the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Now, in the light of what you have said, the duty of a legislature is to make law, ensure that the laws are properly passed before the ascension by Mr. President. What I believe is that if you have a representative from various states, we have 36 states, we have various representative groups and interests that are represented in the National Assembly, at the House of Reps, and then at the Senate. What you need to do is to agenda bills that will encourage private participation in government, because we cannot remain, we cannot rely on government to continue to source, to feed, people or employ people. Now, what I mean is this: get bills that will encourage private establishments. Like we welcome the Electricity Act that was passed. It will give a lot of us rooms. Myself and you can have our own green vegetation, have solar transmitter, make money, and then empower people, employ people from the local, from the villages. You know, everybody now comes to Abuja. Why? Because this is the center of everything. This is where everything is being controlled. It's like a unitary system that we are still practicing. And we say we are under federal system of government.
All right. I would like you to hold your thought there. We'll take a quick break. When we return, this conversation continue. Please don't go away. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we've been looking at the prospects for the 10th National Assembly and how they fit into the renewed hope agenda of the federal government. And just joining us is Honorable Abubakar Aliu. Honorable Abubakar Aliu is a town planner and a political analyst. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. We will go back to Doctor to get him land on his thoughts before we bring in perspectives from Honorable Aliu.
Thank you.
Doctor, one of the things we have seen consistently erode in the National Assembly is people not even understand the unique difference about their role and that of the executives. National Assembly members wanting to be contractors, wanting to execute projects in their constituency, they feel they have to be evaluated by the number of transformers that they put back home or boreholes that they dig, rather than deepening the legislative process and conversations that, how critical is it for a reorientation, of the members of this 10th Assembly to fully concentrate and focus on their tasks as opposed to wanting to drag relevance, as
Yes.
it were, with members of the executive.
You know, today in Nigeria, we have fusion of powers, especially the National Assembly. I've said this several times for those who care to know that National Assembly is not supposed to have a committee and say it's a chairman. When you say a chairman, you are already dispensing the function of an executive officer.
Are you saying
chairman of committee,
House committees and Senate committees are not?
Yes, they are not supposed to have such committees as chairman, as this, because...
But that is the international practice, isn't it?
That's not true.
You go to the US Senate, you have Senate ranking members and you have chairman of different committees.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is this. The committee that oversees ministries, MDAs, you should have committee. But the word chairman should not be. They should look for a word within the legislative arm that fits in that name. When you say chairman of a committee...
But it's a practical term, Doctor. You are chairing.
When you are chairing
the affairs of the committee.
You are displaying an executive function.
So what is the designation that is appropriate?
You could have a legislative leader. We have all those things. Leader for this. That's what they use.
But is it about the nomenclature?
The nomenclature comes to our head and we display an executive function.
Okay.
That is what I'm saying. In Nigerian system,
right,
we can use leader, the leader of the committee, the deputy leader. These are the nomenclature common to the legislature.
A lot of people will just say these are just semantics because the chairman leads and the leader chairs. So it's
you understand my point. Right. This is just a peripheral of what I want to say.
Okay, if we can just segue to so that we can give the honourable.
Yes, let me run on, because the question is how can they fit into the renewal through their legislations, come with formidable legislations that can create impact on the people. You can come by way of creating jobs through legislations. Come by way of empowering the country through fundings or through other means of international participation in Nigerian projects to improve the lives of the people. Because they are known for lawmaking. They are not known for contracts. They are not known for sitting on committees and saying that I want borrow here. That is not what they are.
Unfortunately, over the years, we have seen them execute government contracts and things like that.
So because when you say you're a chairman, you have given me a sense of executive function.
Yeah, Honorable.
That's it.
Your 2 cents on what happened and what your expectations are of this National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly. How do you expect them to function alongside the plans and the manifesto of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Should I start on a very sincere note? I've heard the doctor's submissions, but you see, in defining times of what the legislative arms are, is clearly timing to separation of powers within the 3 arms of government, which is the executive, execute, what the legislative, legislate, and the judiciary being an independent body, actually interprets between whatever that it's supposed to be. That aside, going to the 10th Assembly, I thought we have the elections that were never of its kind for the first time, and even when it was a voiced vote and all that thing, you have a 353 going for the speaker emerge. It sends a bit of shiver to people that actually dipped in legislative matters and people that really want a life-bearing, defined objectives at the end of the day. Because what you tend to do at first, you've killed, there's no longer oppositions, what the elections really clearly define. Aside from that of the Senate, that of speakership, by implication, you rather expecting a more result-oriented assembly if they unite in voting the speaker to have a 353. People were saying it's the first of its kind, but I said a lot of expectation is said. If the
What
House.
do you mean there's no opposition? Pardon the
Yeah,
interruption.
obviously, because if you have the numbers are 100.
But this is one event.
Obviously,
we don't know how things are going to progress from now.
Obviously, but what we have today from the yesterday coming to today is the first time it happened of its kind, where you have out of the 361 who emerges winner.
But you talked about starting on a sincere note.
Yeah.
Did you approve of an open voting system that basically rob people of their independence to express what they want, as against coming out, as against being afraid of a party?
Whatever that we're going to say, I'm an APC person and a chieftain, so whatever that has happened have happened. We're talking of expectations of the assembly.
Yeah.
And that was why I said starting on a good note.
No.
If that has yielded the result of it, you should know that the renewed hope that we so much clamor for the president to emerge, a lot more is expected from him. And avoiding the true sense of people losing hope in the governance, most especially the legislative. They don't even have a clear time-defined basis at which their operations are, whether they just legislate and call bills, or whether they relate to the primary whom that sent them for the assignment here in National Assembly. These are things for another day. Whether they define romance is going to be, because what people say is now is that if you have a former speaker being also an executive now, and also part of whatever that had happened in the whole of the assembly yesterday, whichever way, expectations that are made is that we know that the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Siwaju, was also in the Hello Chambers in 1993. We have the vice president, who is a former senator. We have the chief of staff, who is the former speaker. We have the SDF, who is a former senator. To be candid, if they rob the system of an anticipation that will give them that renewed hope that we so much clamor for.
Do you think this is a recipe for good for Nigeria, the fact that they all have these experiences and they all have this synergy? Because most people really feel that this fraternization could be unhealthy for a productive engagement that might not necessarily be antagonistic in a way.
Yeah,
that sometimes when they need to draw the lines, these friendships would limit their ability to do so.
No, I actually have a counter opinion about your submissions, actually questions. But what we do as Nigerians is, when we said renew hope, is because there is no more hope in governance. If I and you still thinking of what the results of yesterday have yielded today, then tomorrow shouldn't be anticipated in hopefulness.
Okay.
So because of the anticipation of what we're thinking and what we're expecting, we're not taking their experience to be against our own ethics that are going to be beneficial to the Nigerian populace. We are rather being confident that this experience they have and whatever they have transferred to the leadership of the House shouldn't be as a result to tilt it to their own favor, rather than having a compromised legislative answerable to the questions of their elders, rather making a grant for an open legislation that will get a direct bearings to the populace of Nigeria.
Doctor, I'm coming to you, and this will be your final thought as we drive down. One area where Nigerians hope that this 10th Assembly will be able to deliver on is the area of oversight. We seem to have neglected so much oversight. I mean, we see a lot of bickering between the legislature and heads of agencies, to the extent where a lot of them don't even respond to invitations to the assembly.
Queries, right.
But the only place we can find value as a people is if the legislature wakes up to its responsibility of oversight. If you have approved the budget, then you should follow up to ensure that the standards, the provisions that you made are adhered to by contractors and everybody who is in the final leg of delivery.
Yes.
What is your charge to this National Assembly with the view to reviving the culture of oversight?
Yes, it's one thing I know that has been part of the legislative system is to expose corruption. That is their sole responsibility in the participation as committee members. Their role is to expose where corruption is. Okay, you have been given this, you have not utilized it for this. That is their role, legislative role. It is not for them to invite you. Yeah, you are working here. Okay, give this one to this one. Yeah. And
But that's oversight, isn't it?
Oversight is to ensure that the budget is implemented. And when it is not implemented, you expose.
How do you expose without
You expose
interaction?
corruption. You expose it. Look, we gave you 3 billion for this. How did you spend it? You bring it out. If they will confirm it. If it's not on ground, they expose you.
Okay.
That is the function
All right.
of a legislature, and that is the function for. I mean, that's the reason for oversight.
Okay. I do believe that we're out of time, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I wish we had more time to continue to drill, but this is a conversation that will continue. We will continue to uphold our own end of the conversation, which is to hold these people accountable to Nigerians and to ensure everybody is delivering on its mandate. And that has been the conversation for today. We want to thank you, Dr. Otitoju, constitutional lawyer and electoral reform expert. We didn't get the opportunity to drill you on electoral reforms. I hope we'll find time to do that later.
No
And of course, Honorable Abubakar Liu, town planner, political analyst, and I dare say good dresser. Thank you very much for finding time to be here. Next time we will have the opportunity to look deeper and wider into the issues.